Still need more evidence that the Bible is just fear-based coercion? What I'm about to share with you is a few clips from a debate between Ray Comfort, the infamous spreader of the gospel message, and Matt Dillahunty. But I specifically wanted to key in on a few important points that Ray really stresses in the beginning of this debate. Now, if you don't already know who Ray Comfort is, if you're not from the Christian background and aren't familiar, he has a YouTube channel and ministry called Living Waters Ministries, and he's known for traveling around to college campuses, public arenas, and all over the world to share the gospel with his microphone and convince people on the spot to become Christians. And he's quite persuasive at it. But let me show you what the original simple tactic he's using really is. Well, I really shouldn't say original because he's not the first one to do this, but watch.
You're the dartboard and the arrow is coming your way. I believe you're in terrible danger, and I believe you don't believe that. And if I can convince you that you are in terrible danger, I'm doing you the ultimate favor. You know, I was a sinner, and that's why every time I do a debate or witness or share with someone, I go through the commandments to bring the knowledge of sin, because I know, Matt, that you have a conscience that bears witness with the commandments. God has taken his time to write his law upon your heart. You intuitively know it's wrong to lie, steal, murder, commit adultery, even to lust. And you know in your heart God should be first. And when I realized that on the day of judgment, I'd be guilty before God, I'd be condemned to hell justly by God, I'd be damned, that's when the cross made sense.
He just said it. Every time he does a debate or shares the gospel message with someone, he walks them through the commandments to give them knowledge of their sin, and then he can justify their destruction and implement this fear tactic. Let's watch another clip.
Now, here's the rub. Most people don't realize what death is. And Matt, I'm sure you're familiar with this famous Bible verse that you learn when you're in church. Romans 6:23. The wages of sin is death. According to the Bible, death is wages. God has paid you in death for your sins. It's like a judge in a court of law has a heinous criminal before him, and he says, you've raped 3 women and murdered them. I'm paying you in the death sentence. You've earned this.
You hear that? You've earned death. This is the foundation and a requirement to sharing the gospel, convincing people that they've earned death. Let's continue.
This is your wages. This is what you deserve. And God considers sin to be so serious. He's given us the death sentence. The soul that sins shall die. The wages of sin is death. You're on death row, Matt. Every beat of your heart is a drumbeat of your own funeral march, and it's evidence that what God says is true. And after death, the judgment.
Every beat of your heart is like a drum beat marching you to your own funeral. Now that they've got you with this catch-all argument, let's see what the solution is according to Ray.
Now, because you realize how serious your transgression is, the fine being paid for you is not foolishness. It makes sense, and it's exactly the same with the gospel. If someone's proud and self-righteous, they don't see sin as being serious, the gospel will make no sense. Christ paying the fine for, I don't need that, I'm not a sinner. But once you realize how serious sin is, that it gives you the death sentence, that God's wrath abides on you, you're an enemy of God in your mind through wicked works, once you acknowledge that with a good and honest heart, you've got a humble heart, then the good news of the gospel makes sense.
Now, if that's not a 1, 2, 3 step to fear-based mind control and coercion, I don't know what is. But thankfully, Ray was transparent enough to make it very obvious what approaches he's using to convince people to become Christians. It's fear-based trauma, nothing else.